Hello.
Oh, you're a bit early, but hello.
Hello. I was on the ball there. I was on it
Li-
this time. Normally
you,
there's like an awkward 4 second gap, and I'm like,
how
you
are
all
you?
right?
Yeah, I'm good. You?
Yes, fabulous. Very, very good, thank you.
Still in the same spot?
Will be
Which,
for a while. The offices, I'm actually giving up the offices in September.
oh, really?
But won't talk about that. We'll talk about that another time. Because if I start talking about it, I'm going to continue to talk about it.
I was going
So
to say. I was just about to say that's going to end up being an episode. I
no,
will
don't
write that. I will write that down in the
write it
list.
down. Yeah, because
Um,
it's actually a very valuable lesson, and it's a lesson yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about it.
let's not
Literally,
go down that route.
yeah,
Um, awesome. Okay, so today, we're going to be talking about. I love it. It's like we talk about this before we go, and then we plan it. So it's not like we're just making it up. But we're going to talk about lessons from old employers.
yeah,
Um, so stuff that you've learned, the good, the bad, the ugly, from old employers. Because I'm sure, well, I know I've got them, and I'm sure you have
yeah.
loads.
Well, do you know what sparked this for me as well? Like when we were talking about it, is like obviously. I hope she doesn't mind me. I'm sure she won't. She never normally does. But like Millie, for example, Millie's not an apprentice anymore. She's an employee, and I want to give Millie the world. Like that's my aim. I want Millie to be on 6 figures by the time she's in her early 20s. I want her to be running this business. I don't want to be my dream. My goal is that I am doing pure content, training, creating awareness, and she will be running everything else, operation, everything else that I do day to day, and obviously have a team of advisors. That's the goal. Now, I have been like, obviously, not like, like when things are like not going right, but like being like mistakes or things that I'm like, it's like frustrating my end. And I was talking to someone the other week, and they said, yeah, but you've got to remember that she hasn't got the life experience you've got, which is very invaluable. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. Like, you take for granted what life experience is. And it's not necessarily that, like, I'm not saying that what she does isn't right. She's amazing. She's everything. Like, I can't fault her at all. What I mean is, like, stuff like maybe more having the confidence to do things, having the initiative, thinking outside the box. Really, when you think about it, you probably do get that along your journey of life. You learn these things and you grow without knowing. You don't learn that at school. No one sits down and teaches you that type of stuff. It's something that you gain, and that's like where like previous employers, old bosses, people I've worked for. There's loads of things that were shit and there's loads of things that were good. And there's loads of things that I would think, well, I want to do what they do, but in a different way. And
Yeah.
you take it. So whatever position you're doing right now, whether you think that they're great or the terrible or the narcissistic or the lovely, whatever it might be, each of them will have a quality as to why they're there. Even if they're shit and they don't know what they're doing, they've got there somehow. So look at what they're doing. Like,
Yeah.
see how they're doing it. I always think whenever you're spending time with people, use and abuse them as much as physically possible, not in a nasty way, but in a like, I mean, when you're in their presence, what can you gain from them? Like, what can you learn from them? Whenever you're around people, even if it's only for an hour or if it's for 6 months, like almost analyze what they're doing and how they do it. Like, that's what I do with everyone, even like people who are, like brand new in the industry. I'll sit and I'll say, like, so what do you do? How do you do it? Like, what's your thought process? Because you never know what you're going to learn from someone, good
Yeah.
or bad, right? So one thing that sticks in my head that I take with me and I do constantly all the time is actually from my old boss at Howdens, who was very nice, a bit patronising, quite male. Like when I told him I was pregnant, he said to me, bear in mind I was one of the best, like in terms of like sales and stuff, like being promoted really quickly and that.
Yeah.
I told him I was pregnant. He basically said, oh, well, you're basically redundant now. Like that's literally what he said to me. And I was like,
Wow.
you're a prick. But at the same time, he was the one who told me, like when I talk about the giving clients 3 options, the gold, the silver, the bronze,
Yeah.
he was the one who told me that. Like that was his style. Like he would say, you don't go in and just give them this price. You need to go in and be like, these are the options we have, and you give them the options and you present it to them, and then they will say whether they want it or not. It gives them, the more information you give them, the better. And like, even though that was talking about kitchens, that on insurance is pretty much the same thing. Like, the way I took it is, when I started doing this, was it's the same thing. You give a client the gold package, the silver package, and the bronze package. One, they're never going to be able to say you never explained everything to them. Two, they're going to know that you've been very straight and honest with them, because you give them every option, not just the most expensive one. And three, they're going to know that they've got the, I suppose, like, the trust in you, that you're not trying to hide anything from them. You've been very upfront with them. So I've took that from selling kitchens to insurance. Another thing I took from that job was the unimportant stuff is always so important. So, like, to build rapport with clients, to be able to like, establish a relationship where, at the end of the day, if a client doesn't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. End of. Whether you're selling kitchens, insurance, or ice, it doesn't matter. If someone does not trust you, you're very unlikely to be able to get them to give you anything, right? Yeah. Unless they absolutely have no choice. So I remember, like, and I do anyway, like, as a person, I think some people are just naturally good at this, and I am, like, when I'm in someone's presence, I like to get them to feel comfortable very quickly. I like to ask them questions, to talk to them, to sort of build up a bit of about them, rather than about what I'm trying to do. And I remember him saying to me once, like, not just to me directly, like in a team meeting, he was like, the unimportant stuff is the most important. So when you go in that room, because we used to, like, present in a room, you'd go in and you have, like, the kitchen on the screen, and you'd sit and talk to them. They'd be like, right, you've already been out and you've measured at the house. So when you go out, you do the same thing. You measure in the house, you talk to them about stuff, you get to know them. You know, when they've told you that their cat's named Fluffy, when they come back in their office, say to them, how's Fluffy? Like, remember things that they don't expect you to remember. I don't want you to remember the budget or what colour they like. I want you to remember what the kids are called, what they do on a weekend, because that matters. Like, the unimportant stuff matters. And it's so true. Like, and I think that was a very sales tactic thing, but I naturally do that anyway. Like, whenever I meet anyone, if I go and meet someone, like, Keo always says to me, will you leave them alone? Like, when we were in St. Lucia, we were on a tour, and the woman was a tour guide. I'm never going to sell insurance to her. Like, that's not my, I don't, like, think every single person's an angle. But, like, I'll sit and I'll, like, so what do you do? Like, outside of here? And she'll tell me about, what does your husband do? What your kids called? And at one point, Keo, like, nudged me and went, what are you doing? I was like, just talking to her. And he was like, why are you asking all them questions? I was like, I'm trying to get to know her. He was like, you're just weird. But, like, taking the time to get to know someone without feeling, you know, if you genuinely do it, if you're doing it because you're genuine, you'll be very good at it. If you're doing it because you're trying to make a sale, you'll be shit at it, because it'll be so see-through. You know, just, if it's something you don't naturally do anyway, don't try and do it. But if you are that type of person who is like a people person, who can build a good relationship, who can have a conversation with someone, then do it. Understand people more than just what you're trying to get out of them. Instead of trying to understand what they want to do for their insurance or what they want to get out of the money, try and understand what matters to them, the things that you might have, you know, in common with them. Like, things in common is a massive one. Like, if you can build that common ground, you can do that
quite well. Like, I love to do, and I actually have always done this, very similar to what you're saying, but we're very similar though. And then I was reading, like, a communication book, and it was like, said do this specific thing, and I was like, I do that. I've always done that, which is as you said, being sociable and being personable and good with people is a skill, and you have to use it a lot. So I always find, if I go shopping, I always go to the counter where the people are serving, as opposed to the self-serves. And I always try to have a conversation with that person, or like anyone who's serving you food, because if you can do that, it's a complete stranger. And the amount of people that can't do that is crazy. And I remember when I met my wife, she was quite antisocial. She come from she wasn't a very social person. She didn't really know how. She was shy, didn't know how to speak to people. And it was when I said to her, I was like, well, I do this. And she was like, now she does it. And she's so much more confident, like 8 years on from when we first met. But that's because she said, it's because when I go places, it's very much like, if there's a bus driver, it's like, how are you? You having a good day? How's, like, exactly. And people don't do that. It's
No,
and,
it's
and it is a skill to learn to do that. To be like, and I think that's something that sometimes the digitalization of stuff removes that even further. Having a phone call and actually speaking to somebody. Even when my cat died, I was still having a joke on the phone, even though I'm terrified and sad and upset. I'm still making a joke with the cremator woman, because it's a skill. That woman, you want to be nice, don't you? It's crazy, really.
It's like building relationships without ever trying to, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So like when I go to a restaurant, I'll say to the person who's serving me every time, it's a running joke with all my friends and family, what's your favorite? What's your favorite? And they're like, oh, well, and I'm like, and then they'll say something I'm never going to have. Kayle's like, why'd you ask? You know what you're going to get. And I'm like, because I want to know what their favorite is, because that tells me something about them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I agree.
I do it without even meaning to think by the end of the meal I'm going to say who's your insurance with. I just do it. That's just how I am. But I learned that, like you said, I think I always had that skill. The more, like, when I used to work at Howdens and I used to put it in that way, I used to think, actually, that's really true. Like, when you do something without realizing you're doing it, and then once you know how to do it and how to manage it, it
was only, I think you're very similar, because me and you said this when we first met. The first time I met you, I was like, wow, we're a lot in common. It's only, and I can imagine Howdens be for you, it was only when I went into the real working world and I saw kind of much older people than me not able to do the things that I was able to do at a very, like, 21, 22, 23. I was thinking, oh, maybe this is not as simple as it actually feels. And as you say, once you're aware of that, you can hone it and become very, very good at it, which is obviously what you did.
Yeah, well, that is really good, but I think it's a skill that people can actually work on. So if anyone doesn't naturally do it anyway, try and do it. Like, even if it's just for yourself, it'll build your confidence massively. And I got that from my previous job. I've done two good things, so let me do a bad thing.
You can do a bad one.
Let me do a bad one. So it really pisses me off in previous employment when you're basically made to feel like shit, when, like, loads of times when, I don't know, say one of the kids were bad and I had to, like, choose between sitting at home with Teddy or Alba or Jackson and be like looking after them, but I can't, because I can't let my boss down. Well, now I'm so annoyed at myself. Now I'm like, literally, whatever you're doing, always let your boss down. Always. No one matters more than you and your kids. Right. Yep. So always let your boss down. If you've got the type of boss who's going to make you feel like shit for not coming into work because your child's bad, let him down all day long. All day long. Take advantage, ring HR, do what you can do, because it's a joke. Like, and people might say, well, it's all right for you, you're not paying them, they're on self-employed. Well, Millie is employed and Millie has unlimited holidays. Like, that's my thing. When I took Millie on as not an apprentice, as an employee, I said, you've got unlimited holidays now. So you're not an apprentice where you've got 28 days or whatever, is now you've got unlimited. Do as many holidays as you want. I don't care. Take as many as you want, because you work for 70% of your life. If you want to go on holiday every month, as long as you're doing the job that you're meant to be doing, I couldn't give a shit how much time off you do what you need to do. And people, at the end of the day, if it's someone who's going to take the piss and be an all day all the time, then
but they're not going to stick around then. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the thing, isn't it? Like,
anyway.
Yeah, that's the whole. Is it Virgin? Doesn't it? Virgin does unlimited holidays. They have that thing, and that's because they're those type of systems. Like with yours, you're such a high achiever. If Millie couldn't keep up, you'd know very quick.
Yeah, it's not. You don't. I wouldn't give someone who I thought couldn't do the job that type of. But it's like they wouldn't be there anyway. So when people are like, yeah, but they might take the mick, I'm like, but why would she take the mick? She's not that type of person. Like that type of person wouldn't be working for me anyway. So, like, I really... Oh, 1 second. What, babe? All right, well, just 2 minutes, right? Just go in there. Yeah. 1 second. Just multitasking here. Hey, babe.
What did you put on Paw Patrol?
I'll put on Paw Patrol. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. She just keeps getting older and older.
Multitasking, aren't we?
Yeah.
Are you at school now?
Yeah.
No.
She's at school. She's 5.
I was going to say, she's got to be at school by now.
Right, turn it down. Just go and sit in there. Right, say bye-bye.
And actually, 5. Literally, when we first met, like I didn't even have a son, so like I know that she's a school, but this is like, so much has changed over.
So yeah, so that's a good one. And then another thing that, right, always be honest. I can't stand, and not many bosses do this. And I've had quite a lot. I'd say I've had about 10 bosses, and there's only one boss that I remember who was very straight and very honest. And I don't mean like telling you how it is. I mean, like all of my staff know exactly what I earn from what they do. They know exactly what comes in. They know exactly what goes out. They know exactly what's getting took off them. And I have done that from day one, because I will never, ever be made, I would never want them to feel as if I am not being honest with them and upfront with them. And yeah, if you want to go away or do something else, you can, and you learn X amount more. But I'm giving you this for this, and this is what it is. And the day you're not happy with that anymore, that's absolutely fine. But I never want to be the person that is like getting caught out. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot. I don't know whether it's a thing of power, control, fear, like fear of like being so honest with advisors or honest with staff that they can take something. For me, if they're going to do that, if they're the type of person that they're going to go and do that anyway, then they're going to do it regardless. Whether you tell them or not, they will find that out and they will do it. So for me, I just think I'd rather from the beginning, and you know yourself, because like I spoke to you about it a lot, like a lot of people said to me, don't, you're being too honest, you're being too upfront. And I was like, I don't care, because I'd rather from day one put all my eggs in one basket with people. And if it doesn't work, or they take the piss, or they take advantage of it, then bye. Then at least I've found out. I don't want to do where people like sort of try and keep things from you, hoping that you're not going to find that out, or one day when you do, it'll be so far gone, like you'd be settled. Like, no, I don't want to do that. I want people to know who work for me that what the truth is they get, and that's the end of it.
That's a common thing in your industry, though, because I remember when I was an advisor, and when I was an advisor under an AR, so when I was like an appointment, when I was like, I can't remember the names of the ones, when I worked under a firm, but like in that way, like, and I remember the commission structures and being like so confused by them. And then, and remember saying to someone like, but it's confusing because you want me to be confused. Like I'm, do you know what I mean? I was like, just tell me the truth, because it's not that confusing. It'd be like, well, the network takes this, but then someone else takes a bit of this. So you get 85%, and I was like, but 85% of what? 85% of our companies. And I was like, so it's like 50% when you actually roll it down. Okay, I get like 50%. Just tell me I get 50%. Don't tell me that I get 85%. And
just put it on the thing, like on our commission statements. It literally is. This is what's being paid into protection parent. This is what's being took off. This is what's being took off here, and this is what is left. Literally black and white all across. You can see exactly what's coming and what's gone.
The money trail.
It's like I need people to know that. I don't ever want to be like questioned on like my. Like, I think that's a big thing, like trust for your employees.
Well, it's like if someone walks into a room, because I know that because I did it. I know you've had the similar situations in different places as well. And is if someone walks into a room, like what you don't want is when someone walks in, they go, well, where's my money going? You're like, it's that conversation will never come up, because if it does, it's like, it's right in front of you. Like it's there. I don't know what whereas, and I think that's something, as you say, like it's not being the way you are. It's very rare. It's not very common in the financial service industry traditionally. And in fact, so much so that I remember a network who will remain nameless, when I was going to be an advisor, and one you know very well, to be fair, is they were literally priding themselves on having a BDM come and teach me how to make it very complex for my advisors if I wanted to employ people to understand their commission structures. That was like, we'll do this and we'll do this and we could do this. And I was thinking, you're barking up the wrong tree here, mate, because if you're doing that for me, you're doing it to me as well. That's the thing that I remember. You think I don't have this with a lot. My boss one of my bosses I had used to lie a lot to people. He'd lie to clients. And then I would say to him, I remember his name was Tony, and I'm very close to him. I loved him very much, but he was a good guy. But I remember saying to him, I was like, don't lie to me, mate. I said, I know you're lying. I said, I know you will lie to me, because you'll lie to get yourself out of a hard spots. But, he'd be the guy that'd be like, you've so and so said that you said it. You go, I didn't say it. They said it. And then he'd call both parties and go, I didn't say it. That other person said it. That person said it. And I'd say to him all the time. And I remember it was because I wanted a company car, and I was like, you have the decision to make a company car. No, I don't. And I was like, all roads lead back to you. You just keep fobbing it off. And that was a lesson from that, is learning, like, no matter how much I respected him and taught me lots, the ability to be straight with somebody and go, I just don't think you deserve a company car.
Yeah.
Would be like, okay, cool.
Embrace the uncomfortableness, like, rather than trying to like bullshit and cover it up. I would rather say to my staff, like, exactly that. Like,
Or I can't get you on.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Why? Because I don't want to. I'd rather be the bitch that's not giving them what they want than the liar who's been fake. I just don't get it. And it's one thing that I will never ever do. And I know the right people will appreciate that. The wrong people won't, and that's fine, because I don't want them anywhere. Like, but there's a very, like, and it's a massive transition for me, like, from what I was like before, like, in terms of like the fear and lack of control and stuff. Whereas now I just sort of think it is what it is. If they don't want to do it and they're not in that mindset, then I haven't lost anything. Like,
No.
Goodbye, get out quicker.
Yeah.
So, but I actually might do a part 2 on this, because I've got loads more. But like, I'm looking.
This is a long one. This is
like
20 minutes.
15, 20 minutes, yeah. So
I'll write this here as part 2.
do a part 2.
Really good. What's your parting words for part 1?
Tune in for part 2.
That's it.